Hi there. So today we're going to talk about multitasking. So multitasking has become a super popular term in the professional world, but also in the world of parenting. I often hear comments like, moms are the greatest multitaskers, or she multitasks like a rock star. And over time, it's kind of become this seemingly really high goal for moms or parents in general that they need to strive for to be good parents. So let's take a look at where this term comes from and how it earned its status as the gold standard of parenting. And more importantly, why I think you should avoid it at all costs. So, multitasking is the concept of doing multiple tasks simultaneously. The term originated in the 60s and referred specifically to computers and their ability to do multiple tasks at the same time. It was fast, it was efficient, and it increased productivity. All good things, right? And over time, this term and concept morphed from talking about computers to talking about humans. I mean, who doesn't want to be faster, more efficient, and more productive? Yes, please. And as families got busier and schedules got more hectic and the pace of life just became faster, the need for this skill seemed vital to just keep up. I mean, really, the only way to be able to manage this new normal is to operate as efficiently as possible. And multitasking, well, if it's good enough for computers, it should be good enough for humans, right? Well, wrong. The reality is we are not computers. Shocking. And research shows we're not physically capable of doing two cognitive things simultaneously. Our brains are created to only be able to focus on one task at a time. So think of it this way. In your mind, you may think you're multitasking when you're on your phone with your insurance company trying to figure out a bill, slicing veggies for dinner, and helping your child with their math homework. But in reality, you're doing what's called switch tasking. So your attention is rapidly switching between three activities that are happening at the same time. While you think you're being awesomely productive, you're actually being super inefficient. Not to mention creating a lot of stress for yourself. And ultimately, not doing any one of them very well. Dave Crenshaw explores the concept of multitasking and switch tasking in his book, The Myth of Multitasking, and has a really super cool activity to show you the pitfalls of multitasking or switch tasking or whatever you want to call it. I want to take a moment to walk you through it right now. So I am a huge believer that we learn best through experience. So I really want you to do this exercise with me right now. So pause this video for a second and go grab a piece of paper and something to write with. Doesn't matter, pen, pencil, marker, whatever you got. Okay, take your piece of paper and draw 3 lines so that you have 4 sections. I'll give you your first set of instructions, then we'll do the activity. Okay, in the first section, you're going to write the phrase multitasking versus monotasking. We'll look at monotasking in a bit, but in a nutshell, monotasking is focusing on one activity at a time. Okay, back to the exercise. After you write that phrase, in the second section, you're going to write the numbers 1 through 25. One number for each letter in the phrase you just wrote. We're going to time this activity. I'll call out the time every 5 seconds. Just kind of get a general idea of when you finish the task. Okay? Ready, set, go. Everyone should be done now. Okay, part 2 of the activity. In the third section, you're going to write the phrase again, multitasking versus monotasking. This time, however, after each letter, you're going to write the corresponding number. So for example, M1, U2, until you finish the phrase. I'm going to time it again and kind of keep track again of how long it takes. Okay? Ready, set, go. Crazy, right? But really hits home the difference between the two activities. In the first exercise, you were monotasking. You wrote the phrase, then you moved on to the next task of writing the numbers. In the second exercise, you were multitasking, or more accurately, switch tasking. And I would guess you, like me, and everyone I've ever used this activity with, the second task was a lot more difficult. So let's look at the difference and the negatives of switch tasking. First, it's inefficient. Look how much longer it took you to complete the second activity versus the first one when you were monotasking. Some research shows that it can take up to twice as long to switch task. Number 2, it hinders accuracy. You're more prone to mistakes when you're switch tasking. When I did this exercise, I was trying really hard not to make mistakes, and so I would respell the word each time I came back to it and kind of do a double check in my head, which is probably why it took me so much longer. Think about when you're texting and driving. Have you swerved, missed an exit or a turn, had to slam on your brakes to avoid an accident? When you're switch tasking, it's really hard to give full attention to either activity, which opens you up to mistakes and can even put your safety in danger. So now you're doing 2 or 3 things poorly and not anything well. Number 3, it takes more energy. It physically takes more brain power to switch task. Research shows that switch tasking strains working memory, which can ultimately have long-term effects on brain functioning. Yikes. When I did the second activity, I felt like I could feel my brain trying to switch gears from one activity to the next, and it just felt kind of exhausting. Number 4, it increases stress. Did you feel more stressed with the second activity? I did. It felt harder. I was more concerned about making mistakes, and I had to keep reminding myself of what I was doing. It didn't feel like a no-brainer like the first activity did. And number 5, in my opinion, as a parent and someone who works with children and families, the worst part of all of this is that it robs us of intentional quality time with our loved ones. We trick ourselves into thinking we're superhuman and can balance all of life's expectations simultaneously, but we can't. And if you really think about it, you'd probably recognize that more often than not, even when you're present with your loved ones, you aren't fully present. So now that I think we can all agree that multitasking or switch tasking or whatever you want to call it is not the way to go. What can we do instead to avoid it in our fast-paced, information overload, chaotic world? First, have self-awareness. Reflect on when you tend to multitask. What's contributing to that? How does it negatively impact you? Does it negatively impact you physically or mentally or relationally or all of the above? Having this self-awareness is the first step in working towards fixing it. Number 2, figure out what you can control in your external environment. Try to eliminate the distractions within your control. Only have 1 or 2 tabs open on your computer so you don't get distracted and go down rabbit holes you don't mean to go. When I was thinking about this, I took a screenshot of my computer. Yep, I can definitely use some help in this area. This about sums it up perfectly for me. For Dave, when he has high brain power work tasks to complete, he works from his office at home. That way he knows he can shut the door and try to eliminate unnecessary distractions. Now there's some things you can't control, but figuring out what you can and then doing it is key. Okay, number 3. Once you've got your external environment distractions managed, focus on your internal environment. Does your mind wander? Do you feel like you have brain fog? Is it really hard to stay focused? Well, here's some tips. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Use a notebook. If you've listened to any of my previous videos, you know I'm a huge fan of writing things down. Helps to keep things organized and eliminates the fear that you're going to forget something. Number 4, time box activities. I'll do a whole nother video on time boxing activities because I think they are super important. But in a nutshell, time boxing activities is designating specific times for specific activities. This is so helpful in keeping you focused and allows you to engage intentionally on activities because you know you've carved out specific time for those activities. Stay tuned for more on this topic. Number 5, shift your mindset. This is a big one. Shift your mindset from thinking multitasking or switch tasking or whatever you want to call it is some sort of superpower and a badge of honor that makes you a better parent. No, no, no. Remind yourself that multitasking actually hurts you physically, mentally, emotionally, and relationally. All of it. Recognize that if you have too much on your plate, you can't do it all yourself. Call in help when and where you can, and recognize that this is not an act of weakness, but actually a really great act of strength because you're actually empowering yourself to thrive. There's a reason they say it takes a village. Reassess your priorities. See if there are any things on your plate that can come off. Think in terms of quality versus quantity. So much of what we do in life is to try and make ourselves faster, more productive, and more efficient. But what if what we're doing is actually sabotaging us, having the opposite effect and negatively affecting us physically and emotionally and relationally? Well, that's multitasking. The whole premise of the well-equipped family is making small changes that allow intentionality to be the priority in your life. Intentionality that leads to deeper connections and greater joy and stronger purpose. You know, the kind of stuff that feels a whole lot more like thriving than just surviving. So instead of multitasking, start creating an environment and mindset that allows you to be more focused in your tasks and doing one thing at a time, doing it really well and doing it efficiently, and recognizing that this is the real gold standard of parenting. High five. You got this. Want more of this? Let's stay connected. You can subscribe here. Also, make sure to scan the QR code to get weekly-ish visits from me in your email with tools and resources to help you get your kiddos and your family out of survival mode and on their way to thriving. I promise I will only send things I believe will be ultra valuable to you. So I'm so thrilled we got connected and I can't wait to see you again. Welcome to the Well-Equipped Family.